Hello and welcome to another episode of Steelfur on Sunday, your weekly news bulletin for the Flesh and Blood trading card game. First in, I think, in the top news this week is, of course, the continued progress of Florian towards Living Legend in terms of gaining points and victories. So this is not updated currently as for the results from the past weekend, but Florian already had 380 points, and from what I have heard, he has gone on to also win the Battle Hardened that was happening this weekend, as well as one other major tournament, as well as additional pro quests. So while that does not mean that Florian will live in Legend this weekend, it does mean, of course, that by gaining likely another maybe 250 points, he will be up to 750. And if something does not emerge from High Seas to counteract him, we could be seeing Florian doing an incredibly rapid race to Living Legend, the likes of which we haven't seen in a long time. That will be interesting and something on our radar to watch. Speaking of Living Legend, other news, of course, is that we have had 3 Rolls of Honor published this weekend. A Roll of Honor, if you do not know what it is basically a list of everyone who has gotten points that have contributed to Living Legend of that hero. So it is your piece of history if you helped Living Legend that hero, and the Rolls of Honor for Enigma, Aurora, and Zen are all now live on the FABTCG website. In addition, LSS have continued to release their World Tour weekly episodes, now coming out with news, analysis, and a breakdown of the, reports and the wins of who's winning each week on the ProQuest and Battle Hardened circuit. So if you are interested more in competitive play, do tune into that and get the breakdown from Margin Bay himself. And I guess the big news that everyone has been glued to this weekend, and of course during the week, has been the continued preview season of the High Seas set that is coming out. Of course, we have this map which people will be able to get full copies of in the treasure packs, as there will be, similar to the large heroes, there will be pieces of this. And we can see already on this map, kind of some spoilers for where we are going in the high season. What's interesting is that there is no hint in this map as to where the rest of the land of Wraith is from this perspective. Potentially it's this land mass out to the right. You can already see some things that are referenced in the cards. There is a floating sky city. There is a dreadful reach. There is, monsters in the ocean. There's Azure Keys, which is a tropical island, and various other locations which are hinted at in the previews that are coming. What is interesting, of course, is that all of these are previously unseen places that are, of course, steeped in their own kind of lore, and time will tell to see what what sort of data and information we get on each of these regions and how they factor into the development of the rest of the world of Wraith. Also in High Seas news, it is worth noting, though I imagine everyone who's already prepared is already there and has already bought a ticket, but the Taipei World Premiere has sold out as of today. So if you were planning on going and you had not bought a ticket, honestly, what were you doing? Please do buy your tickets in advance for these large events, as they do now tend to sell out. Finally, I think the most significant piece of news that will impact players this week, one thing that I've kind of already drawn attention to in my main Steelfur Speaks series, but it has been backed up now by other sources. Min-Max Games recently did an in-depth video on it, is that it does look like there will be severe allocations. Min-Max Games themselves use the word drastic in terms of how much they had been allocated. So it does seem like there will be severe to drastic allocations of the High Seas set, especially in America. Reasons cited for this are manifold. I think it starts off with just a general trend that we saw with the Hunted, where, and this is a good and a bad thing, the growth of the game has drastically outpaced LSS's growth predictions for the sets, and what that essentially means is that they have printed less of a set than they needed to match the new size of the player base. The other thing, of course, which is happening on a more global stage, is that aggression and demand of other companies for those printing slots That, of course, LSS also relies on being available and being at a good price, has probably gone through the roof. We have seen a new recent TCG surge in demand for the largest TCGs in the world, so the Pokemons and things like that, which is also going to put a strain on the entire TCG supply chain, which LSS, of course, relies on. Remember, they cannot print their own cards, they do print them at scale. The last thing, of course, is just that there is a global shipping and proto trade war. I say proto because it looks like it is dying down to an extent, but the effects will already have been felt and will continue to be felt for a while. And MinMax, of course, acknowledged this as well in their video, and I talked about it in mine. But the ultimate truth of the matter is that there has been a cooling off in global shipping, which makes it much harder to get products, especially if you're a small company, from A to B. And that problem doesn't immediately go away when tariffs go away, because when they do get lessened, there will then be a rush of other companies trying to ship their products to the US as well. So it's not exactly necessarily going to be a straightforward the tariffs are gone, therefore flesh and blood comes back into the market. And MinMax Games themselves said, and I think this is very good because they are close to the coalface, as it were, that they are predicting a very rough summer for trading card games. And that is directly tied to the fact that when shipping goes crazy, companies with a lot more money start to buy up shipping space. And when you add that to the fact that print run space is also probably quite limited, and it seems that High Seas was underprinted, High Seas could be quite a rough set. So just be aware that if you do really want to play one of the High Seas heroes, you may be forced to evaluate how much it is worth to you, and of course how much it's worth to your wallet. And if you have not, if you can't afford it right away, don't get caught up in FOMO. Wait until prices come down. They will eventually. Wait until you can get some trades. You don't need to dive into it straightly. But that is the big news of the week. Slightly shorter episode this week. As always, we're not here to make long episodes. I want them to be under 15, definitely around the 10-minute mark. So if we run out of time and we just have a shorter episode, then that's what we're going to do. My other episodes can go on for half an hour because I know some people like that as well. So this has been Steelfur Speaks. Steelfur on Sunday, my weekly Flesh and Blood News Bulletin. If you like this short form, I've already had some good feedback about it. You have any suggestions, or of course, as I always say, if you have any local news or things going on, like charity events in your local area that you'd like me to draw attention to, do just direct message me or send me a tweet, #Steelfur on Sunday or @Steelfur on Blue Sky. I'll get a hold of it. I'd love to put it up on this podcast, especially on weeks like this where I have, a couple of minutes free that I'd like to do. I can squeeze things in. Anyway, I've been Steelfur. You've been the FABTCG community. This has been Steelfur on Sunday. Have a great week, and I will speak to you all next Sunday. The episode will probably be recorded on the move as I will be on holiday, but I will definitely try to get one out.